Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. In less than 48 hours until Modern Warfare 2 is officially released, and after many concerns from the pro community after what they saw in the beta, Infinity Ward have revealed a blog post where they've given some updates on what's going to change for the real game. Practically nothing of importance. Dead silence still going to be woeful and completely ineffective from a large percentage of people. There's going to be no perk for dead silence. The footstep audio has not been mentioned at all. Many key concerns for the pros going into the launch of the game. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Clayster's pretty excited, or, you know, has good anticipation for the game to be released. He reckons there's going to be some crazy stuff about to happen. So, interesting words, just because Formal kind of said a similar thing when he was considering retirement. Came back and said, you know, fate was telling him to keep going. There's something big around the corner. Maybe Clay has some sort of similar feeling here for what the season might hold for the Vegas Legion. Certainly hope they'll at least do something this year. It would be great to see. Just wanted to mention real quick as an update for you guys that yes, November 5th through to the 6th. It's not long away at all until we do the first big kickoff Challengers tournament of the entire season alongside the Boston Breach. Miles is casting it, Chance is casting it. I think I'm going to be hosting at least one, if not both days of action here. So yes, there'll be a lot of good times to be had on broadcast for Modern Warfare 2. But yeah, all the best Challenger players are going to be battling it out for a lot of prize money at the end of this tournament, and Boston are helping produce it as well. Really cool stuff. I'll give you all the updates on that over the coming days with teams and brackets and all this stuff as well. Quick update from Fellow here confirming his roster of Royalty, Darkside and Geo, players that I'm not incredibly familiar with, but I think Fellow's going to try and run it back for one more year here in Challengers before he says, you know what, enough's enough. It's time to either go down the coaching route or whatever, which I think there would be options for him out there. But yeah, I think he said that he's kind of taking, well, he's taken a monetary loss to compete in Challengers to try and make it, and it's difficult to sustain that for too much longer. So hopefully it works out for Fellow and the boys this season. Quick update here from Snipedown confirming his retirement from professional play. We of course saw he made the return to to Halo, right, and they bowed out to the World Championship. I guess he knew for quite some time. I think he's 31 now, so he's still been competing for a very long period of time. Legend in the kind of controller esports space in general, and got a lot of reaction to this all around the world, to be honest, even, you know, from Clayster, for example, here, and many other pros. Formal says, gonna miss you, Eric, best of luck, brother. Even Ake says, legendary career. And I mean, yeah, this is the one from Clayster I thought was kind of nice. The respect as a competitor and kindness you showed me when we first met after I'd looked up to your gameplay for so long, I'll always remember that. Says a lot about who you are as a person. So really cool stuff, great reactions from around the scene. But yeah, of course, we looked just yesterday at the fact that Snipedown made the brief transition to COD, didn't really work out, went back to Halo, did some great things over there, and I imagine he's, you know, going to be doing the Apex Legends stuff and all this going forward as well. Let's talk Modern Warfare 2 then. So firstly, these are all the kill streaks / score streaks at launch of Modern Warfare 2. So I think, I'm not exactly sure the way it works now. You either like toggle it whether you want kill streaks or score streaks, but this is basically how it works. Kind of classic stuff. UAV, bomb drone, counter UAV, cluster mine, care package, precision airstrike, cruise missile, mortar strike, all at 6 kills. Interesting, because often these things are, you know, you want to be able to use a fair few of these in competitive play. You know, the airstrike, the cruise missile, then there's a sentry gun, an SAE, whatever that stands for, a VTOL jet, looks a bit like a Harrier. Then you've got like an escort drone or like a stealth chopper or whatever here, the Wheelson stealth bomber, chopper gunner, so a fair few cool things, and you'd imagine you can probably figure out which of these might well get utilized here, probably more in this kind of 6 category. They might need to make some tweaks for competitive. I think that's what they did back in Black Ops Cold War, when some of the streaks may be marginally too easy to get there to change things around a bit, but that's what the kill streaks are going to be. Also, this dimension, there is no capture the flag at launch. I'm not exactly sure where that rumor circulated initially, but we thought there was going to be CTF, and they probably will add it eventually, but these are all the game modes at launch. And honestly, it's funny really, because as a Call of Duty fan nowadays, you have to be thankful for things that should be standard, but it's just funny the way that Call of Duty's kind of gone downhill to the point where the fact that control is actually in the game at launch is a positive thing, because last year we didn't have control at launch. We had to wait until January for control to even be added into the game. We were literally playing in Vanguard, S&D and Hardpoint only for the first couple of months. It was an absolute disaster. So look, control is actually in the game at launch, which it's pathetic that has to be a positive, but it is nonetheless a positive. So we do have 3 viable game modes at launch. Now, whether you think control is good or bad, I know there's a lot of mixed opinion on that throughout the community, but yeah, these are the game modes that will be launching with the game. There is headquarters and stuff as well. I know some people have wanted headquarters to maybe be considered, or even demolition or something, or sabotage was a classic game mode back in Black Ops 1 that could potentially be played, but yeah, these are the game modes as it stands. So at least they've got the core 3 in there, but it's interesting to me that there's no CTF at launch, just because I thought that there might be a chance for the pros to try out CTF and see if it works. And maybe that's a year 2 thing, right? Maybe we play Control for year 1, and then let's say they add CTF halfway through the season. During the off-season after champs, there might be a chance that the pros can actually play CTF, see if it's going to work, see if it's going to be any good. And then we could change up the third game mode for year 2. That's a possibility. Now, these are all the launch maps right here. So we saw a few of these the other day. A lot of these, of course, we saw in the beta as well. The hotel map, museum, Mercado, Farm 18. These are some of the other ones. So, of course, the Crown Raceway we looked at as well. That Singapore Grand Prix track. And then some of these other ones. And then these are the ground war maps, as you can see. So I think there's a lot of concern that a lot of these kind of core maps have just been stripped out of the Warzone map and just straight up put into core. It may be the other way around. They've kind of built the Warzone map around the 6v6 maps, but maybe that's unlikely. So, I mean, yeah, this is pretty much all we have at launch. It's maybe not the worst, but the frustrating thing to me is the fact that I'm sure there are many more maps here that they could release at launch. They've definitely got Terminal and all the Modern Warfare 2 maps and all this type of stuff ready to go if they wanted to, but they're just deliberately not going to release them because they want to release them over time and in the updates and stuff, which I understand. But the issue is with that is that for the first few months of this game where the competitive scene is based, we're not going to have as extensive a map pool as we could have. So we might be really struggling here for year 1 in terms of good maps, to be honest. I think that's the fear again, that we're going to have a tough time. Now, down the line, we should be better off. But still, I just wish there was more released with the game launch, and then they can just make more maps over time rather than just holding back maps, which is clearly what they're doing. This screenshot doesn't really show you much of one of these new maps. This is one of the other maps as well. It's like, I mean, this is clear absolute chaos. I think we saw a brief snippet of this maybe in one of the alpha versions. Not sure what's going on here, to be honest. This is just some of the maps. And then this one at least looks like a normal Call of Duty map to some degree. So, I mean, yeah, those are some of the maps here. That the hydroelectric map seemingly is the final one. So, yeah, that's what's going on here. Those are the maps as we currently understand it to be. This as well, like, this is a classic Infinity Ward doing something for the sake of doing it. And it just goes to show their whole mindset around multiplayer in this game. That is not going to be changed. So, first of all, the hardcore playlist, which used to be 30 health, like at no hard, right, friendly fire, this type of stuff, is now, well, it's now been renamed to the tier 1 playlist. So, are they trying to make it sound like that's the peak, right? Like, hardcore gameplay is the best you're going to get in Call of Duty, and then everything else is tier 2 and below. So, hardcore is now named tier 1, and I really don't understand why. Even Exclusive Ace goes on to say something I thought was kind of funny here. So, it looks like they're renaming hardcore to tier 1, and they refer to it as more challenging than core. This is going to feed even more into the delusion that hardcore requires more overall skill and has a higher skill gap than core. This is what they say in the blog post right here. Tier 1 playlist is designated within the playlist's name and offers a more challenging experience. Like, so, I mean, yeah, clearly that's what the real top players play is hardcore. And in fairness, it was actually a viable game mode way back in the day. People used to play like hardcore search and destroy and stuff, even back in COD 4. But over time, it's become clear that that's probably not the way to go for competitive. Now, this is the big deal for me with regard to Dead Silence. This is so critical, as we've seen Shotzzy and others point out over time, on how search and destroy plays in this game. Modern Warfare 2019, which came out, I believe, 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, yesterday, that was a real frustrating game to watch from a search and destroy perspective, because the players would literally wait until you get Dead Silence, and then you wait until you get Dead Silence, then you make a play. Now, I'm sure the developers looked at Modern Warfare 2019 and thought, damn, why is Dead Silence the most used field upgrade by far? And seemingly what they've decided to do here is just nerf it into the grounds to try and make people use other field upgrades. What they need to get their head around is that, okay, like, instead of maybe nerfing Dead Silence to make people use it less, if you just add a ninja perk, then all of a sudden that's the real issue you're trying to solve here. So, like, Infinity Ward blow my mind. But yes, it will remain a field upgrade in the game. That is, they are seemingly steadfast on this, as they are with the minimap discussion. I don't think they want to budge at all on the minimap notion that it's going to go back to the normal minimap. They've got rid of it, and they don't want to change it, right? So, I mean, yeah, they obviously, Infinity Ward, have a lot of discretion. They can do what they want, and they've made their mind up that there's no minimap coming back, and Dead Silence is not going to be a perk, and that is the call that they've made. Whether there's any leeway or discussion from a competitive perspective on this, just because I thought the whole idea of the CDL was, and I'm sure that a lot of the kind of CDL teams were promised this, that the plan behind doing the CDL was such that these teams get more power over the state of the game, and the game can be better designed for competitive. But, you know, still, do they have any control at all? Do Infinity Ward just do what they want? Seemingly that's still the case. So, I mean, yes, Dead Silence still a field upgrade. The question is, does it still make that stupid noise, right? I think that's what we need to find out. I imagine it still will. I mean, like, Dead Silence is just ridiculous in this game. You activate it, it makes a massive noise like that you can hear from halfway across the map. So this is what I wonder actually about Search and Destroy. Is it even worth waiting for Dead Silence as a field upgrade now? Because when you activate it, they're going to hear you activate it anyway, and then they probably know what you're doing. Like they can probably read the play as soon as they hear the beep, beep, beep. They know that, okay, your entire 4 team is going for this route because we just heard all of your, field upgrades. Things just hit off. So, yeah, apparently this is the logic that Infinity Ward wants to nerf it from Modern Warfare 2019's version because it was used so high. Whereas, of course, the key issue is the lack of the ninja perk. So, an absolute disaster class, to be honest. Now, and yeah, these are the other things. No mention of ranked play as well in their announcement. Now, in fairness, it wasn't really expected that they would say anything on ranked play or anything in that particular article. And we did hear them at least mention it one word or so in the launch reveal stream they did a couple of weeks ago now. So we're hoping ranked play will launch alongside the launch of the CDL. The earliest I think we can realistically hope for it to be is probably early December time. And hopefully they'll be able to deliver something like that. But yes, concerns about this, and also nothing on the footsteps at all, because that was one of the other key complaints that, okay, if you're not going to change Dead Silence, at least make the footsteps quieter, because they did say, I think they were looking into that. But yeah, no mention of that. So clearly they don't want to budge, and Infinity Ward have made their mind up, and they're going to make a terrible competitive game yet again. Who's really surprised here? And of course, like, there's been many pushback to this from the pro players over the last several weeks. Really, Kismet mentioned this during the beta. Just add Dead Silence, give me 3 perks at the start of each life. I don't know if they're changing the perk system either, because that was an absolute mess in the real game. And that's the thing, even if Ninja was a perk, if you don't get Ninja until the end of the game because the perk system doesn't allow you to, then what's the point anyway? So I don't understand why they need to constantly reinvent the wheel here. Call of Duty had such a great platform to build off, but it is what it is, and Infinity Ward made Modern Warfare 2019, it made them a load of money, so I don't exactly blame Activision for giving them a lot of kind of leeway with their decision making. But yeah, many pros have not been happy about this during the beta, and certainly after the beta as well. Even this tweet from Crim back in 2016, Dead Silence needs to be dead silent on any surface regardless of the action or movement. And this is funny really how the problems back in the day were the fact that Dead Silence existed, but on certain services it wasn't fully silent. When you ran over certain things, you still made a bit of noise or a slight bit of different noise, and that was the frustration we had a few years ago. Like, oh yeah, Dead Silence isn't perfect, you can still hear footsteps if you run on certain services, and now we don't even get it at all. So what does this mean for how Search is going to play in this game? Are the teams just going to be waiting around for a minute every single round, wait for Dead Silence, then make a play? Or is Dead Silence going to be so bad that it's practically irrelevant, and just straight up sitting in a corner and waiting to hear a sound cue is just the only strategy? Or will teams say, you know what, Dead Silence is useless, let's just barrel into a bomb site and try and make it work and not exactly try and be quiet about things? Like, we'll see what the meta evolves into here. And we saw this, just before I catch you guys off guard with the Dead Silence being a perk again, this was about, 1 year ago today almost, where Sledgehammer confirmed that Ninja would become a perk once again in Vanguard. So they didn't make that decision in the beta, they did change their mind and listen to feedback for the real game, but Infinity Ward and listening to feedback is not a combination that goes particularly well together. This also to mention though, there is a trophy system in the game, so fair play. That was a concern we had about Vanguard, and apparently it destroys maybe 3 projectiles, which is quite significant to be honest. So yeah, there is a trophy in the game. The pros will decide whether they want to use it or not, because in Vanguard, the people were saying, well actually if you put trophies in, the game might become worse than it was before, which would have been quite the challenge in the first place. But yes, trophies do exist, but whether they're actually viable or not remains to be seen. A couple of things to mention here on the top 10 players, or going into the top 10 now. Hydra was number 8 after last season. I think this is probably fair enough. Good performance from him over the course of it. And then Kenny got number 7, which some people say was too high. To me, I think is probably fair enough. His overall numbers don't look great, of course, because he was not good at all for the first part of the season, but he was a dominant force at the Stage 4 major in the World Championship, which for me, should have higher weighting over the majority of the season. Some will say that Kenny should be significantly lower because it was not good for most of the year, but he really did turn up at the end, and it was kind of a similar story in a way to 100 Thieves in Black Ops 4, where to me, Kenny towards the end of the season was a top 3, top 5 player in the entire game, but at the start he was pretty bad. So where does that put him overall? It's of course a conversation, and something that can and will, I'm sure, continue to be debated, but yeah, we're into the top 6 from today onwards, and then, when the game comes out, we drop top 1, top 2 numbers of the entire season, and I'm sure you can probably guess who the number 1 at least is going to be. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.